to crypto-clothesline. We're glad to be here with you. Hanging out the crypto laundry. Getting all the crypto info for you. Crypto-clothesline.
Hi, Amy-Rose. How are you going?
You're good. How are you going?
That didn't sound like a very convincing good.
Oh, yeah, just dealing with school holidays and tonsillitis and loads of interviews and lots of stuff happening in the crypto space, trying to keep up with it all. And Telegram is buzzing, LinkedIn's buzzing, messages coming through, and it's exciting. And it's also not holidays for me, wishing I was 7.
It can be super exciting. It can also be slightly overwhelming. It's an interesting balance that we're finding.
It is. But this week, I think there's and this is a nice little segue into our interview, because there's a lot of people out there who are finding a little bit of overwhelm in the world when it comes to money and cryptocurrency.
And our guest this week is Mr. Nesh Sooriyan of getbamboo.io. And they have developed a very groovy app that you are able to, in the near future, download onto your phone and use micro spending. So the spare change from, say, when you buy a cup of coffee, you can round it up to the next dollar and use that spare change, that 50 cents, that 25 cents, to invest in 5 of the top performing cryptocurrencies.
And, this has really come about, from what I can gather from Nesh, it's come about because they've seen that there is a problem with the ability of people to save. There's also a lot of debt, and so people are struggling to put even a tiny amount of their earnings aside to invest in something or to contribute to something. It's actually pretty sad, but they've created a platform that could remedy that situation.
I think it's got to do with saving and debt, but I think it's also got to do with the fact that they noticed that in the crypto world, when they sat down and looked at their wallets, that how much time it took them to sort out the storage of their crypto. And they said mass adoption, like the people on the street, Ma and Pa Kettle, are not going to get into crypto as long as it's this hard. And they have to decipher all this information and the cyber hack, all of the stuff that goes along with it. So as I understood it, Bamboo was developed so that loved ones can also contribute to crypto in a really easy, accessible way, i.e. using an app on your phone. What does he say? You need a bank account, a smartphone, and a credit or a debit card.
And I had a conversation with a couple of my family members about this as well, because I have my sister in particular. She is a single mom. She's got 3 kids, and you name it, this girl has got it going on when it comes to stuff she needs to juggle. And she looks at me as this cryptocurrency extravaganza every time we talk. She's just not really interested in crypto. She thinks that it's too hard. She's not a risk taker. And she's just a little bit, to be honest, she's going to listen to this interview and she's going to be like, shut up. But I think she's actually scared of it. And she thinks I'm like an out there sort of ridiculous person. She's a sweetheart. But I think she's the person that would benefit the most from this, because you don't need to think about anything. It just does it for you.
I think it's a really important point. Let's have a listen to your chat with your sister.
Yeah, let's have a listen. Sarah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, that's fine. Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to be talking about savings, and you're a single mum, you've got 3 kids, and you are a student and you're working. All of these things together. Can you tell me about your lifestyle and whether you save, whether you don't, and how hard or easy it is?
Well, I do work really hard to save, and yeah, I do save, but I need to budget, and it wouldn't be too much at a time considering that I have a lot of time that I can't work. It's really hard to save, but I do save.
And why is it so hard to save?
Because I can't work at times. So I could go 8 weeks without working because I have to do student placements. And so when I'm saving, I'm thinking about the times that I can't work, and pretty much all my savings have to support me in that time. So yeah, it's just it's hard.
When you do try and save, do you often go without to have that little bit of extra money to support you through that time you're not working?
Oh, yeah, of course. I always have to meal prep and everything to prepare myself so I don't have to shop for a while if I get everything prepared in the future.
So the reason why I'm interviewing you today is because I know that you are very, very organized when it comes to managing a single mum's wage and dealing with being a student at the same time. You're really amazing, and I just want to tell you that.
Oh, thank you.
And you're my sister, and I love you.
I love you.
But also, we interviewed Nesh, and Nesh is the co-founder of Get Bamboo, and he and his team have created an application where with every purchase, you're able to put a small amount towards cryptocurrency. So what that means is when you're wanting to save up some cryptocurrency, because as you know, sometimes the value goes up and some people make money on that, and obviously sometimes it goes down, but I guess that's with everything. So Get Bamboo has created an application. If you go and buy a cup of coffee, you're able to put of that $5, 20 cents or 30 cents or even $1 into or toward cryptocurrency. And that saves up for you in a way where sometimes you don't even notice that small amount. How would that impact on your life? Would you consider it? Would you not consider it? And what are your thoughts on even cryptocurrency? Because you and I are very different, where I have cryptocurrency and you don't. So how would that make you feel?
Okay, so cryptocurrency to me is interesting and exciting. I'm still a bit nervous about it, as I am with any investment, in regards to small amounts being put aside and choosing how much money I want to put aside depending on my budget that week. I believe it would be a great idea. And at the end of the year, if I saw how much it's grown, I think it would be really good. If it's an amount, say like the bank fees and stuff that you don't notice, then why not?
How do you think it might impact on people who are in a very similar situation to what you're in?
I think the people I know would want to see how much I've made, say, in a year or 6 months just by doing that. A lot of people like to see to believe. I think the people that I'm around, that's the way they think.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your input.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Sarah sounds like a super mum. She's incredible. She's so organized. She reminds me of you. It must be in the family.
Yeah, so in the family. Yeah, talk us up, baby. Let's do it.
I went to visit you and you had like afternoon tea ready for the next 13 weeks. I was like blown away. All really healthy food. I'm like, oh my God, this girl's so sorted.
Yeah, but you sort of need to be. We come from a family of nothing. We were very poor, very, very, very poor. And so we are organized. That's true. And she is doing amazing. And I think she's going to be pretty good at the Bamboo app, to be honest. She's got all sorts of budgeting software on her computer. So if anyone's going to do it, she's going to do it.
And it's really interesting the way that Bamboo said that their whole app developed from the Acorn model, i.e. people making micro investments. And they've just taken that model and swung it across to cryptocurrency because they don't want to see their loved ones missing out. So this is a perfect example. Sarah is a perfect example of being able to say, hey, grab this app, download it. Every time you buy something, you can buy 50 cents worth of crypto or whatever you choose to contribute.
And how good is it going to be when people stop using their credit cards to buy crypto and getting themselves in debt to buy crypto? Because that's huge at the moment.
Well, that's exactly what we spoke about with Layla Osborne of Australian Institute of Blockchain Technology, who came on to comment. And we talked about quite a few different things, but we did touch on the fact that a lot of people are getting themselves into a lot of debt in order to buy crypto, especially in that November, December hike of last year. And that actually, people are in a pretty uncomfortable situation if they've gone into debt to buy crypto, expecting it to still be mooning, and now it's crashing back down to earth. And the volatility of the market means that if you're not educated and you haven't done your due diligence, you can really leave yourself open for some pretty uncomfortable debt and having to pay that back.
Oh, and I have heard of so many stories about this, and people just justify it like it'll pay itself off when whatever goes, when whatever cryptocurrency moons. It's not cool. And, let's have a listen to that interview that you had with Layla.
Yeah, she's awesome. Hello, we have Layla Osborne joining us from the Australian Institute of Blockchain Technology. Welcome back to the Crypto-Clothesline.
Thank you so much for having me back on the show.
You're very welcome. Layla, I know that you are a woman working in the blockchain space. Could you comment on how difficult you think it is for the average Australian or the average household, full stop, to actually save money after paying for everything they have to pay for in the family budget?
Look, it depends on the budget, and depends also on where the bills go and where the payments go. I know quite a few people that have not a lot of spare change left over after paying bills, and that is a struggle for many households. But then there are ones that live paycheck to paycheck, but they do spend their money on extra things during the week, and that would be their priority over saving.
I see. So people sort of in consumerism mode as opposed to people being very clear about where their money's being spent and how to save the excess.
Yeah, it really depends on your demographic, where you live, and obviously what you work, and if you're a one income family or two income family. So in our family, for example, we've always spent our money. We really enjoy spending, takeout and things like that. And I know that if I, give up those things, I can put aside money for crypto, for example, to get into crypto.
Do you think that the average household thinks that they can afford crypto?
No, unfortunately, a lot of people I've spoken to believe that it's just too hard to get into. And I think it also stems from the fact that they might not know a lot about crypto and how it works. So, for example, when I spoke to a friend of mine trying to, encourage her to see what it's like, just to try it out, I said, look, you can put $10 into it. And she said, oh, so I don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. So because it comes from a lack of knowledge of how it works, and because it's it might be a bit too hard for some people to understand the concept. I think if we educate people and just tell them, look, you can actually buy bits of a coin or a token and just set it aside, they probably will realize that they can afford it.
So if I was to suggest to you that there was an app that you could download on your phone, and every time you went to buy a coffee, say for $4.50, you could make an agreement that you could round it up to the next dollar, and say 50 cents would then be put towards, say, one of the 5 top performing cryptocurrencies. So in effect, from your bank account, $5 would be taken out, $4.50 for the coffee and 50 cents to a cryptocurrency of your choice. Do you think that would be something that would be useful for people who don't necessarily know how to save or know how to get crypto for themselves?
I think that's a wonderful idea, actually, because first of all, you don't actually have to go onto an exchange and deposit the money and then buy and then go to a broker or use any complicated exchanges. So I think an app, something like a simple app where with every purchase I can round it up to the nearest dollar, that would be great. I mean, some people might not notice, and or you upsize your meal from a medium to a large. Why not round up the money to the nearest dollar?
Given that we in this country are experiencing excruciatingly high levels of credit card debt, what do you think about that?
Look, I wouldn't recommend getting into debt to purchase crypto, and I think that we definitely do suffer from high debt in this country and across the Middle East as well, where I'm from. The debt cripples a lot of families because they have money, sometimes they would like to buy some stuff, and they get a credit card and they struggle to pay it, and then what they do is they get another credit card or another loan to pay off that credit card, and they're just stuck in that cycle of getting credit and stuck in that debt.
I've heard it referred to as debt slavery.
Yeah.
And so if part of the whole crypto revolution is to help people on the street, help households lift themselves up out of that so-called debt slavery, then how do you think that reflects having an app which is connected to your credit card / debit card, that you're buying crypto with your spare change, which is in effect increasing your debt?
That's true. I mean, if you use your credit card, but I would always recommend, spending what you have, what's in your bank account. Would the app have the ability to use a debit card?
Yes, I believe it does.
Yeah, which is great. That would be a great aspect of using that and just having, spending the money that you have. And then if you do have a credit card debt, what you could do is use that money that you've invested, and if it grows over time, use that to pay your debt price.
Layla, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your very wise comments.
Thank you so much for having me on board.
Very interesting stuff.
It was. And, I think the good thing about Layla is she tackles all different sorts of facets of the issues going on in the space when it comes to finance. And I think that's why this Bamboo project is going to solve a lot of problems in the cryptocurrency space, in this space at the moment.
One of the issues that came up for me, and we did speak to Nesh when he was speaking about, you and I have discussed it at length, and we discuss it at the end of the interview with another person called Molly that you've spoken to. But it's the question of credit card debt and how Australians and people around the world are spending their future money right now, and then they spend a good portion of their lives repaying debt, and they're caught in this endless circle. So in our conversations, we basically came to the understanding, didn't we, that it would be super awesome if people learned to use their debit cards in this application of Bamboo's, as opposed to getting themselves further into credit card debt, using a credit card to pay for coffees and things.
Do you think that's the case? I'm not even quite sure.
I'm not sure either, but it would be wonderful to see that people are getting education around not getting into further debt, even if it's 25, 50 cents for every single purchase, and that they're able to use their own money to make micro investments into crypto, as opposed to, the whole question is, while crypto is so low, if they're continually getting into deeper and deeper debt, even with these micro payments, is that going to eventually make it more painful for them?
Let's have a listen to the interview with Nesh.
Hello, Nesh, and welcome to Crypto-Clothesline.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Sorry it took so long for us to connect across time zones.
Time zones, but you've also been doing some pretty interesting things on tour.
Yeah, so Bill just got back from New York. He was at Consensus, wrapping our heads around a new deal that we potentially have for retail product for a 10-state launch in the US, and also finding ways for us to work closely with partners that are working with the SEC. As I think we talked about at the Computational Law and Blockchain Festival, like our team, we realized that compliance is coming and we need to work with regulators. Bill's been able to do a lot on that front in the US recently.
Oh, wow. So you've been working with regulators in the US?
Yeah. So we've been lucky enough as a project to work with the Fold Legal in Australia and their partner Claire, who's absolutely amazing. She's been on the front foot for years when it comes to ASIC and regulation. And in Switzerland, we've worked closely with KPMG Switzerland and FINMA to make sure that we're compliant there. And in the US, we've worked with the Fold Legal to be on the front foot in terms of the SEC. Being a mass market play, we realised that it's in all of our best interests to work with regulators and make sure that this technology is robust and will stand the test of time.
Okay. Nesh, could you tell us exactly what this project is, though, that you're working on?
That is a great question. My apologies for getting into the weeds too early. Yeah, so Bamboo Blockchain came about last year. Myself and Phil and Pete and Simone, we've been around the technology space for a couple of years and we've known each other for a couple of years. We've always wanted to work together. Interesting story, and I'll tell you about how we all know each other a bit later. But we were looking at the blockchain space and there was this moment where we were in San Francisco with a bunch of teams that we were incubating in the Perth startup community. And myself and Phil, we drove down to LA and we were talking about blockchain all the way down. And when we landed in LA, we went to the Bulletproof coffee shop and we sat down and went through all of our wallets for cryptocurrencies. And we realized it was taking us an extremely long period of time to actually gain stock of what we were doing. And we were like, if it is taking us this long as geeks, then how long would it take the average person to get involved in this technology that could shape humanity? And so that's where we started thinking about Bamboo. How do we make it easy for the everyday person to be part of this revolution? And so what Bamboo is it's a micro savings application that allows the everyday person, be it a mum, a dad, a school teacher, a student, to download the app and within 46 seconds have as little as $1 invested in a group of cryptographic assets.
Awesome. So Can I just use an example? If I go and buy a cup of coffee and it's $4.75, then it will round up to $5 and then that little 25 cents will be put into cryptocurrency. Is that how it works?
That is correct. The other interesting thing is that you can choose to round up to the nearest $2. You can choose to round up to the nearest 5, maybe 10, and you can also choose to do weekly contributions.
That's the question that I was going to ask. You just answered it for me. Can I round up to $20 if I want to put in $20 from my coffee towards cryptocurrency? So that's awesome that you can do that.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit, Phil, about which cryptocurrency can you choose, which one you want to round up to, which currency you want to invest or acquire?
Yes, you can. So our view is that in order to be risk appropriate, people should be across a group of assets. So we will have a default setting of potentially the top 5 standalone blockchains. but you can choose how much of a percentage of every dollar goes into each one of those. And you can choose out of a few of the top assets which ones you would like to be in.
Fantastic. And when you say 5 different blockchains, could you unpack that a little for listeners who are not really familiar with what you're speaking about?
Certainly. So most people have probably heard of Bitcoin. You may have also heard of Ethereum. You may have heard of Monero. Each of these do different things and have different characteristics to them. It is a nascent industry, so it's very early on, but we realize this technology will change the world. And we're currently sitting at a couple of $1 billion worth of assets in each of these technologies. I think last year we were close to capping about $1 trillion. And then now we've kind of had a bit of a step back. So what we believe is that most of the top ones that exist today will potentially exist in the future, and they will continue to grow. You'll be able to invest in potentially Bitcoin, Monero, Ethereum, and a few of the others as you see fit. So Bitcoin was probably the earliest and has the largest market share at this point in time. Bitcoin is predominantly a cryptocurrency, whereas Ethereum is a blockchain that has its cryptocurrency, which is Ether, but also allows for other applications to be built on top of that network. So it's a different kind of crypto asset. And then we have Monero, which is predominantly a privacy coin, which is where you cannot trace the transactions that occur within the Monero network based on the attack vectors that we understand to date as to how you would find out where those transactions come from. So Monero is used for very different circumstances compared to Ethereum or Bitcoin.
So you wouldn't necessarily use Monero then to go and buy yourself a coffee, is that right?
You could, if you really cared about your privacy and censorship resistance and the merchant was to accept Monero, you could use it.
Okay.
But not on the Bamboo app.
No. So the Bamboo app connects with your bank account or connects with your credit card. And when you use your bank account or credit card to buy your cup of coffee, we go, hey, there's a coffee transaction and it was $3.50. And the person has wanted us to round up to the nearest dollar. So we'll round up to $4.50. Will go into the assets that you choose to invest in.
Wow, that's awesome.
So what happens then when I want to get my Monero and flick it back into fiat? I want to give it back and get the cash for it.
Perfect. So we have a closed loop system with your bank. So we know who you are. We know that you use the Bamboo app and we know that your bank account is this bank account. If you wanted to move back out, like let's say at the end of the year, you'd put away $500, it had become $2,500 and you wanted to take it back out, you could simply click a button in the app and then we will put it back into your bank account in Australian dollars, US dollars, or Swiss francs.
Oh my God, that's amazing. So at what stage are you at, Nesh, with this project?
Cool. So we started last year. We have a prototype app that is currently functioning to ends. Security is pretty big for us. So we're stress testing, we're still building, and we should be launching in Q3 of this year.
I had a question going back to the question of acquiring, say, Monero or Ethereum or Bitcoin. How do I know how much I've got? How can I track it?
Cool. Well, you'll be able to see it in the dashboard within the app.
Okay, so it's a bit like looking at my bank account. It's kind of similar.
Yeah, or looking at your stock portfolio. So you would know that you hold XYZ stocks and X percentage of your portfolio consists of this stock.
So I've been hearing a lot lately about the question of regulation that we touched on at the beginning. Say I'm using your app and at the end of the financial year, I've been hearing a lot of talk about the fact that are these tokens, are these assets, what are they and are they taxable? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Cool. So upon release of the application, we'll have further certainty around this. But our view was to make it as easy as possible for the everyday person to get involved and not to be a tech geek in order to have access to this technology. So currently within the organization, our view is that the app will give people a report at the end of the financial year, which makes it easy for them to follow their tax liabilities and also pay the tax man.
Oh my God, I would love other platforms to have an automatic reporting system. I don't know anyone else who's doing that.
I'd like to take responsibility for that, but unfortunately I can't. We have a great group of people, and I think Our passion is that this technology will change the world. And as geeks, technologists, we have a responsibility to make sure that everyone can participate in a risk-appropriate manner and make it as easy as possible for anyone to do so. I like to use the example that we don't want to be down the track, created an immense amount of wealth and be using this great technology that makes our lives easier. The equivalent of driving a car and turn around and see our loved ones or people that we care about in society and they're walking or they're still in a horse and cart.
Yeah, that I remember you talking about that when I first heard you guys presenting at the Perth Legal Hackers event. And yeah, that impacted my interest levels a lot. The social implications. But I've got another question. So say I've bought my Ethereum, I bought whatever I have. Can I then go, oh, I've got, 0.2 of a Bitcoin or whatever it is. I'd like to go and switch that across to another cryptocurrency. Can I do that?
Perfect. So right now, our lead designer, Linus, and our head of production, Will, they're actually working on that functionality within the application. So it's like rebalancing. And we will be releasing that at some point in the app roll where you go, hey, I've got Bitcoin, as you say, and I'd actually like to hold less Bitcoin and I'd like to hold more Ethereum or I'd like to hold more Monero. You would pick the change that you want to see in your portfolio and then potentially click a button that says rebalance, and it would automatically rebalance away from Bitcoin and into those other assets that you choose.
So would then your app really be reflecting some of the functions of an exchange?
That's a great question. Yes, in part, we will reflect some of the functionality of an exchange, but our application at the end of the day is exchange agnostic. So our back-end platform, B5, will be able to function with standalone exchange APIs or centralized exchanges as we call them, but it will also be able to function with decentralized exchanges when that technology comes online. So we can partner with a number of exchanges as we see fit in each jurisdiction.
Can you tell me how that you came up with this idea? Is someone in your team really bad at saving money?
So I think it resonated with us. Phil has always been a huge fan of what Acorns did in the US. Phil is our CEO. I was quite passionate about what the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Grameen Bank, did in terms of empowering the impoverished around making savings possible. And Simone is an absolute humanitarian, and then Peter is just an absolute genius when it comes to risk management and probably the most financially savvy out of the lot of us. So it is the amalgamation of quite a few of our passions.
So most of you are okay at saving, but you just think it's important.
We think that in order to change someone's life circumstance, we need to be able to empower them to save. And people struggle with savings when we can't build a behavior and our savings account remains dormant. So we can get people that have struggled with savings and we can automate the process of contributions, but then also give them risk-appropriate exposure to a high-growth asset class. We could change people's life circumstances.
Absolutely.
This is very cool. And so my next question is about how does one then transfer this wealth and this savings and these abilities to people in, say, developing countries that don't have, say, first world issues that we're experiencing?
Yeah, so I think a number of people that are focused on where do I apply my energy for the greater good? So what we're seeing is we're seeing smartphone penetration occur in the developing world. We are also seeing the unbanked starting to become banked by smaller banking institutions that have less of the overhead costs of our traditional banks. And then obviously Bamboo will come in and play a role in that as well at some point in the future, we hope, where as smartphone penetration increases, as these people have access to bank accounts for a low cost, they would also gain exposure to something like the Bamboo app.
So those two things, clearly a smartphone. I mean, I've heard other discussions where it's a smartphone and access to the internet, but in the case of being able to securely use the Bamboo app, we need to have that tethered to a bank account.
Yeah, our view is that this asset class will change the world, and we are passionate about the developing world. However, we realise that people suffer in the Western world and in developed nations as well. Our larger view here is we need to make wealth distribution occur when this technological disruption happens. And the best way to do so, a better wealth distribution than we have previously experienced historically, the only way to make that happen is to make sure that people have access to an asset class like crypto. We're seeing that with the ICO and the token boom, where the types of investments that were only accessible to private bankers and high net worth individuals through VC funds are now accessible to the everyday person. What we're doing is we're saying that's great. That is a higher portion of risk. What we want to do is we want to be able to get people's dollars and cents and give them exposure to the underlying technology that will drive the revolution.
I think it's also good. My grandma, who's a great grandma now, she has a smartphone and she also does her banking on her smartphone. She's quite advanced, I must say. But this means that basically any generation can save cryptocurrency and they don't even really need to think about it.
100%. We want our grandmas and our grandfathers to use this. I hate it when people say that, just because of someone's age that they're not technologically savvy. Both myself, Phil, Pete and Simone, some of our greatest mentors, the most technology savvy people that we know, and their hunger to be involved in this surpasses ours at times.
And Abheeti, you were going to ask a really juicy question about the storage of data, and that's your juicy question.
So when you mentioned that Phil was really keen, he was a great enthusiast about the Acorn, is that an application? The Acorn function, I'm not quite sure what to call it. One of the questions that came up at Perth Legal Hackers was about the storage of data and the fact that Acorn was using people's spending habits and looking at their habits, storing that data and making that data available for sale to other parties. And in light of the recent sort of Facebook privacy scandal, and how is Bamboo looking to deal with that storage of data, all the information you've got around bank accounts and spending habits?
I love this question, and a lot of our thinking has been shaped by some of the early crypto philosophers in a way, and even futurists like Yaron Lanier, and he wrote a book called Who Owns the Future, where we predict that people that are closest to these data centers or data sources will retain most of the value within our society. We're not that. So in all of our internal discussions, our view has been, how do we empower people to own their own data? So in the event that somebody opts in and data is made available for profit, anonymized data, then we must make it possible for the person that has contributed that data to benefit. That is a discussion that we're still having. But what sits well with our values at this point is that if somebody was to, contribute their data to a pool, that they would be the ones to benefit from that. Unlike, I won't name names, but there's a number of applications out there that you opt in and your data is being sold. The end user is not actually benefiting from said data sales. That people should be able to opt in and choose. And then if there is somewhat of a profit made, then the end user should receive some level of benefit for that profit.
What a great idea. So basically I can tick a box and say, and I'm not saying that this is what you're doing or going to do, but in theory, you could just tick a box and say, if you sell my data, I would like 0.0001 Bitcoin.
In theory, yes. I think the early discussions that we had was that it's hard to predict the value of said data set, but let's say you contributed a certain percentage, then you would get X percentage of the pool that data is sold for.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool. Makes sense.
Yeah, very early days and is subject to change. If I'm speaking with a level of integrity, it could be subject to change depending on the jurisdiction and just depending on the regulation in the environment we go into. But our intention is to always empower the end user, because blockchain is all about disruption and distribution of power.
Are you struggling to find a safe place for your massive store of cryptocurrency? Do you feel anxiety thinking about your Bitcoin being eaten by a massive exchange? Then you're in the right place, because we're giving away a Trezor from Australia's premium hardware wallet distributors, CoinStop. And all you have to do is subscribe to the podcast and leave us an awesome review on iTunes that will be judged by the team at Blockbox on the 28th of July. Terms and conditions can be found at www.crypto-clothesline.com/Trezor. Good luck! I spoke to another guest who was talking about in Europe how they have a right to remove data, or a right to, what was it that they said, Abheeti?
The right to be forgotten.
The right to be forgotten, yeah. So I guess if you're going international, which you obviously are, there's all sorts of privacy and information sort of laws going on, so you definitely have to be a bit careful about that. Have you heard about the right to be forgotten?
Yeah, I love it. I must say, I love that you guys use Proton Mail as well. I don't know whether we've had this discussion before, Abheeti, but I say, like, you'll always hear people say, I've got nothing to hide, so I don't really care. But you'll never hear a person say that, I don't really like unlimited opportunity, so what I need more of is discrimination based on my activity.
Except that once when you said it.
Censorship resistance and our right to privacy is so important. Without the right to privacy or censorship resistance, we wouldn't have seen movements like Tahrir Square, or we wouldn't have seen the suffragettes, because what would have happened was we would have known who the originators of the revolution were, and potentially bad actors could have shut them down or pursued them as individuals because they would not have been able to remain private or be able to protect their identity.
And blockchain. I mean, that's a massive example, you know. I mean, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? He's not around.
He's an enigma, or she, or it. I've got a bit of a girly question. Oh, that's a bit sexist. Hello. Where did that come from? Oh, dear. My conditioned past. What's the reason for the name bamboo?
That is not a girly question at all.
No, it's not.
I've got to watch that.
So we believe, I think bamboo symbolizes us as a company in terms of our humanity and our connectedness. Bamboo plants actually grow within like a network system pretty well. But also it is one of the fastest growing plants or grasses on the planet. So it is a reminder of our connectedness and also a reminder of our imperative to continue to grow.
Okay. And there's also I was thinking, because it's actually my favorite plant, there's a flexibility, there's a lot of storage of water in the event of, a dry spell. I've got a bamboo that's very forgiving. She keeps bouncing back year after year.
That's what it means to me. Obviously, if you ask Simone, she's probably going to tell you a number of other attributes around bamboo. Pete would tell you a number of other attributes, and anyone within the bamboo team. It's such an amazing, resilient, resourceful material. And yeah, I think it embodies a lot of what we as a company aspire to.
Nesh, you mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you would tell us how you all met, the founding team of Bamboo.
It's a great story. So Phil and Pete, they've known each other since they were in high school. They were network security and hacker sort of nerds. And when they graduated from university, both guys did networking, cybersecurity and counterterrorism. When they graduated, the first company that they worked at, Simone was actually the head of people and culture. And Simone took these two young super nerdy dudes and she protected them from the corporate world and made sure that they were able to flourish and create this environment where they could continue to do all the amazing things that they love doing while also growing as human beings, which is a great story. And they've always wanted to work together. They've went off and did a number of other projects. And then the way I met the team was I started a company a couple of years ago when I returned home from China called Paleo Meals Direct. And it was about how do we get people to eat more nutrient-dense food. And when I started this company, every Friday I would sit in the office and want to meet the customers and talk to them about why they were wanting to eat more nutrient-dense foods. And Phil was one of the customers that came in. And he asked a bunch of questions. He talked about the grass-fed beef suppliers that we had, organic vegetables, microbial diversity. We got to know each other. And then the following year after I'd sold the business, I was part of the Space Cubed community and I was working on a program called +8. And it was about accelerating WA startups and looking after tech entrepreneurship. And Phil and Pete both came on at different times as advisors and mentors to help with these startups. And then later I met Sim. And then obviously me and Phil were over in San Francisco to help these Australian startups. And we started talking more and more about blockchain.
Oh my
Awesome.
gosh, that's such a synchronistic bringing together of brilliant minds.
Yeah, I think humanity, we're this pretty super intelligent network, right? And we bounce into each other a lot. And I think Western philosophy sometimes tells us that the individual accomplishes a lot. But in true fact, we don't have much control over our destiny at all. And it's as groups that we accomplish great things.
I'm interested to know, so within that sphere, within all those brilliant minds coming together, how do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with a lack of resonance or a lack of agreement, or does that never come up?
So Sim is a lot of times the glue that keeps us together. But she's one of these amazing human beings that has allowed us to build our own ways of functioning as well. And with every relationship, sometimes you have the training wheels and then eventually you learn how to ride the bike, right? And some of the things that we used in the early days was equal time. So we're proponents that if one person talks in a room for the whole meeting, then we have diminished the IQ of the room to just that one person's IQ. Whereas if we have equal time in all of our meetings and even within our conflicts, then we have now multiplied the IQ of the room and the IQ of the discussion to the group's IQ. So put together like 140, 130, 120. In Pete's instance, probably like 180 sort of IQ. And now you've got a room and you've got a consensus that you've built that is based on the multiples of the intelligence that you have in the organization.
Wow, it sounds a little bit like force. You know, when you have a car accident, if they say, like, if two cars are coming together at 60 kilometres an hour, you're going to hit at 120 kilometres an hour. It's going to be a huge force. Sounds a little bit harsh, you know, car accident, not really the best analogy, but it sounds, you know, similar, that it sort of all grows exponentially a little bit.
Yeah, similar to the force equals mass times acceleration. Yeah,
is that what it's called?
There are other forms of IQ too. I'm really interested in the whole IQ debate. Our school system measures one kind of genius, and there are so many other types that can be measured.
EQ, the ability of one human being to bring other human beings together and keep them together, so undervalued.
Especially in a world rife with individualism, as you said. So I have, for me, a final question. How do you see cryptocurrencies and other blockchain or disruptive technologies affecting the future of humankind?
Yeah, so I like a speech by Johan Grevers at TEDx called The Four Pillars of Decentralization. I think blockchain is going to impact humankind on many different levels. I think we will distribute power and remove middlemen, middlewomen from the value equation so that we'll bring people closer together and able to do business at a much more frantic pace. I think we will see a distribution of wealth potentially. I think that government power and this view that we have that we need somebody to control our decision making for 4-year intervals, we may actually see that start to be disrupted. We would be able to access the group's knowledge more instantaneously. Yeah, there's a number of fronts that this could work on. The one that resonates most with me is being the child of immigrant parents. When my parents, like many others, fled the civil war in Sri Lanka, they had to leave behind wealth that they would have used to educate their children and set up their new life. And so their economic impact when they came to Australia was diminished. In a world of blockchain and cryptocurrency, we would be able to see a free moving system where people could move between nations and carry generational wealth and be able to not have weights on when they get to that new nation and just deliver an economic impact much more rapidly without the need for banks or institutions to take their clip.
Gosh, that's a very interesting example.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Increased competition between nation states, right?
It is going to be, the next 5 years is going to be so juicy. Seriously, I cannot wait to be able to every month or so when Parliament's having some sort of debate, be able to have input, you know, just by ticking a button. I feel like there's going to be some sort of app that's based on the blockchain. There's a question that comes up and statistics are just delivered, you know, or whatever it is just delivered to Parliament. This is what the country actually thinks once there's a consensus. I just see that as just so liberating.
It's like instantaneous influence, isn't it?
Far out. It's going to be awesome.
So Horizon State, which is an Australian blockchain company, and then also the Flux Political Party, they're the starters of that kind of revolution.
I look forward to looking into that more. Further to what you talked about being able to electronically carry your wealth between nations, I did hear some talk about some governments insisting that you declare what you've got in your wallet at the border. How do you see that playing out?
Oh, you might get me in trouble with some of my personal views on that. What I would say is that I like the way that Naval Ravikant, the founder of AngelList, has said this. Remember when you cross borders and you get that question, are you carrying more than $10,000?
Yeah.
What control does a government or a nation state have if a human being can cross borders and remember a string of numbers and letters and symbols and literally land in that country and have access to millions, if not billions of dollars?
Zero.
So now it becomes a question of a memory thing. which puts me in a really bad situation. I mean, if you give the average person 3 kids and, 10 years of sleepless nights, they're stuffed when they go overseas.
Oh, my mum's pretty sharp. She never forgets anything.
Yeah, that's your mum. Talk to my kid's mum.
I look in the mirror in the morning and go, ooh, who's that?
And where was the person I used to know? Oh, Nesh, it's been so wonderful to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nesh.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to all your listeners. I think there's an immense amount of responsibility that you guys all have as custodians of what will be the future.
We're certainly looking forward to bringing your message to more people and, to follow your progress.
And downloading the app.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, you can check us out on bamboo.io. Join our community. We always love a chat. We love to talk about the philosophy of blockchain as well within our Telegram channel.
Awesome.
Oh, great. So we'll get those deets and put them in the show notes.
Okay, thanks, Nesh.
Cool. Have a great morning, guys,
Thanks,
or afternoon,
too.
wherever you guys are at. See ya.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, he is such an interesting guy. He's got such an incredible vocabulary.
He's so eloquent. He's actually really impressive for a guy. Sorry, sexist, but it's true.
His voice just reminds me of hot chocolate. I know that sounds so kitsch, but it does.
It actually sounds, I'm not even going to say, but anyway, all that aside, whatever images I have in my head, his project is awesome. It's actually, I can't wait to use it. And you know what? I sound like a seller. I sound like, and you get 10 steak knives, but it actually is an application that everybody can use.
I can hear Mr. Archer there in the background. Hi, Archer. It is something that everybody can use. I mean, you've got your little man sitting in the background because he's got a sore throat. We're talking about households. You and I, we live in households and we're supporting our families. And we need to be able to access crypto in a way that's easy and that we don't have to employ someone to help us sort of work our way through the crypto sphere. I think it's a fantastic application.
Well, you don't even need to know really how to use an exchange. Hopefully everything goes smoothly and all the identification things are all, the KYC and everything's all sweet. Because if that's all done for everybody and ready to go and everything is smooth.
The whole thing is with the KYC. For those of you that don't know what that stands for, it stands for Know Your Customer. And that can be the hardest bit where you have to identify yourself using all these different levels of identification in order to be approved to purchase crypto through a regular exchange. So yes, if they say that it takes 46 seconds to download this app onto your phone, that must be a pretty easy process through Bamboo.
Yeah, I reckon. And they've got it down pat as well, because if they've got this application that can connect with your bank account, do you know how hard that is to create an application and get a relationship happening with banks? To have this application up and running and functioning, I reckon they've put in the legwork.
And it's not even just within one country, it's global, it's international, and you've got all the regulatory bodies, and they're potentially providing an end of year taxation record saying this is what I bought and this is how much I've made. I mean, it's making it so easy for people. It's very, very user friendly.
It has to be because there's so many people out there who don't understand finances. So they've set up this application that helps people to save because we have a huge problem at the moment where people actually don't know how to do it. There's applications out there already and they're working, but this will solve so many problems when, as we've talked about, with credit card debt. And we had an interview with Molly. Molly she's on the money. She runs a program over in the UK and her sister runs another program in Australia, very similar, that teaches women how to manage their finances, how to understand money. And here's our interview that we had with her. Thank you so much, Molly, for joining us today. I really appreciate your brains on this matter.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Molly, we have had an interview with a man named Nesh, who is the co-founder of a project called Bamboo. And in the interview, we talk about finances and how people are struggling to save and why their application is beneficial. And I've talked to you a little bit about how that works. Can you tell me a little bit about the situation with people at the moment with savings and debt?
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems to be at the moment we are spending more than we earn. And so we're kind of like not a nation out of control because this is something we're seeing kind of all around in the UK, in Australia, in America. Yeah, we're just living with outside our means. So at the moment, like an article just came out actually like yesterday and it was saying that Australia is $45 billion in credit card debt, which just kind of really shocked me. And then like in the UK as well, it's actually 25 to 34-year-olds who are most in debt. And this is kind of, I guess, why, I've started Shiz on the Money and why I'm so concerned about this, because this is like my age group. This is my girlfriends. These are people who I work with. And it was just like a really scary step. So yeah, we're just at this time at the moment where we're not getting any real kind of financial education, and therefore we are just kind of living out of our means.
And you have this business, it's called She's on the Money, and you're the founder of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're doing is we're empowering women to take control of their financial well-being and to get money savvy. And what this is all about is turning on their money mindset. So we run like events and courses and workshops and webinars on a whole range of different personal finance topics, because this is just, it's information which is so important, but we're not learning it at school or at university. And unless your parents teach you, it's just, you just end up locked in this cycle of bad money habits.
And what have you seen in your experience with your friends and your family when it comes to money?
So I guess when it comes to money and my friends, the whole concept of this business came around because I was just literally talking to my girlfriends one day and I was like, we should get together. And we actually wanted to host a book club, but we're like, actually, let's get together and talk about money because, I don't know anything about this. And why are some people my age buying houses and others are living paycheck to paycheck? So I spoke to my girlfriends and they were all in the same situation. We didn't know how to invest. We didn't really know how to save properly. We weren't budgeting very well at all. And I guess then word got out and, within like an hour of putting it up on Facebook, we had 20 girls being like, yeah, I want to get involved. And we're like, well, maybe this is an issue that a lot of women are facing. And that's how we actually came up with it.
Do you think an application or an app on your phone would help people in this position where they're sort of struggling to manage their money, or do you think it could do the opposite to help manage?
Look, I think it could definitely help. Like what we're seeing in the UK, and it might be different in Australia, but a lot of companies are coming out with budgeting tools and apps that allow you to kind of work out where you're spending your money. It links into your bank account. And I think these are fantastic because it actually gives you a tracking of where you're spending, what areas. So are you spending it all on food? Is it going on rent? And it just gives you a really great snapshot without having to do much about what your spending habits are. And then you can change your behavior depending on that. So I think, I think apps are fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Molly, for that little bit of insight on how the world is currently working when it comes to finances at the moment, and how awesome it is for women to come together with your project She's on the Money. It's fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. It's always lovely speaking with you as well. I love what you're doing over in Oz.
It was really interesting to listen to Molly speak about that level of credit card debt, especially people in her generation, which sound like millennials.
Yeah, well, they absolutely are. But I don't think it's just millennials that are having this problem understanding finance, because I don't think it's ever been taught in school. I don't think my parents got taught it. My daughter is definitely not being taught it, and I was not taught it. So it's like this universal blanket across education systems where you just don't learn these fundamental tools.
Absolutely. And that's the whole basis of some of our thinking around crypto and kids and that service that we want to provide to the community in due course. It's actually educating children at a grassroots level about how to manage money and awareness about crypto, because not many of us had that as role models growing up.
And I don't think parents are really spending a lot of time discussing that with their children either, which is another problem.
Exactly. I mean, as a parent, you know it yourself. It's just you're juggling so many balls in the air. And if you've got to sit down and say, right, kids, let's talk about finances, it's just another spike in the wheel or spoke in the wheel.
It's hard enough talking about the birds and the bees. It's getting really complicated. Well, first you have to decipher what they already know when they're like 8. They already know everything.
Well, this is the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. And you try telling a preteen/13-year-old who's teeming with hormones that there's stuff that you need to talk about, because guess what? They know everything. It's not just 2-year-olds who know everything. 13-year-olds know more of everything than 2-year-olds.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And you know what? Good luck with that, because you are up shit's creek without a paddle with that guy.
Thanks, honey. Well, all I can say is I was 13 once, you were 13 once, and look at the wonderful flowers we've blossomed into.
That is not what my mum and dad would call me right now.
I don't care what your mum and dad would say. I'm saying it.
Well, thank you.
Well, it was an awesome interview with Nesh. I can't wait to have him on the show again just to hear about what Bamboo are doing next. I think it's a very friendly platform for people on the street. We had a few questions. They've come up in the interview, in the secondary interview with him, and it's just been altogether super educational, and we are really thrilled about what they're doing.
See you later.
See you next week.
Hi, you've called Abheeti
And Amy Rose
at
Crypto-Clothesline.
Leave a message after the...
I've heard you talking about crypto and kids, and quite frankly, I am disgusted. I don't think you should be filling the minds of young children with this kind of codswallop. Now, my son is a perfect example of a fine, strapping young man with his head screwed on. He has got a credit card, which, by the way, when he maxed it out to $5,000, they immediately offered him another $2,000. So now he's got another $2,000 to spend. In addition to that, he got himself a lovely car. Now that was reduced from $21,500 down to $19,000. He has got himself a lovely car with a loan that he can pay off on a monthly basis, or if he so chooses, he can do it weekly. Now, he wanted to go to Bali, and like I said to you in a previous message, like he did run out of money because he had a few too many of those cocktails on those beaches. But, apart from the fact that I had to send him a couple of $100, which just cost me a small amount to transfer the fees, he's got his personal loan, and that has covered his trip to Bali. So basically, my son, this perfect example of a modern man, has got the term of his natural life to pay all this stuff off, all this stuff that will basically, set him up for life and make him recognised as a member of society and pay him back absolutely nothing. I do not see why you think you need to fill the minds of young people with these ideas about digital currency and cryptocurrency and things that don't even exist. You cannot even touch them. So exasperated listening to you ladies.
Crypto-clothesline.